Good morning, everybody. Okay, so back for another video. Today it's on the, the acquittal of the Mesa Police Department murderer, Phillip. God, I can't remember his last name. Blaine something. No. Brailsford, that's it. Brailsford. Phillip Brailsford, who murdered Daniel Shaver. Right? He got off on those murder charges. Well, it's an interesting case, and I want to cover a few points through it. But mostly, what this video is for, the purpose of it, is to do two things. One, to address law enforcement. And two, to explain why we have a Second Amendment in this country, in the United States of America. Okay? So, now first, okay, to the law enforcement of the United States. Forget about, I'm not going to be tactful anymore. I just can't. So, if you're a Leo, of any stripe, of any department in the United States, this is for you, and you're going to just have to swallow this. Be offended. I frankly couldn't give a fuck, because what I'm about to tell you is meant to rattle you. It is meant to offend you. It is meant to show you why I take the stance towards you, why I view you as I do. Okay? Now, anytime I see a squad car, a canine unit, any uniform, any Leo uniform combined with a badge and a gun, the first thought that enters my head is, gang member, watch out. Because you're flying colors, you're wearing a badge, and you're carrying a gun. Okay, those are three of the elements that constitute a gang. Okay, I could add a fourth element in there. The fourth element being that you associate with others wearing the same colors, the same badge, and carrying oftentimes the same gun. You might have a personal one that's your own little, but the point is, the gun represents your willingness to commit violence. And in the context of being a gang member, carrying a gun explicitly states that you are willing to initiate violence. In other words, you're willing to start the fight, okay? Not de-escalate it, but to start it, escalate it, and finish it out to its conclusion, whether it's an arrest or whether it's to murder the guy or gal, whoever, right? Whoever your victim is. And Daniel Shaver was the victim, the intended victim of Phillip Brailsford of Mesa PD. Now, I want you to also recall Jose Guerrera back in 2010, who was gunned down in a no-knock raid in the middle of the night in his own home. Okay, now, it's not surprising to me that both of these cases happened in Arizona. And the reason is because I lived in Arizona for 17 years. And during my time in Arizona, I discovered that there are paramilitary groups made up of law enforcement officers that go around in the middle of the night, off the books, conducting off-the-books raids to drug dealers' homes, stealing their drugs and reselling them to make profit on the side. Okay, now the media doesn't touch this, but the couple of times that these attacks were so egregious that the citizens demanded that these incidents be reported on, that was how I discovered them. Because I think it was in the Phoenix Sun that it first came out, and it was mentioned once. Not on the front page, but somewhere tucked in the middle, you know? Somewhere where you could miss it if you weren't paying close attention. Which is, of course, how these things often happen. So, Leos, I view you as gang members, like dangerous criminals, right? People to be avoided. I would make the analogy that you are like a rabid dog loose on the street. And how do you react when you see a rabid dog loose on the street? What do? Well, first of all, you do everything in your power to not attract its attention, right? You go about your business, you don't make eye contact, you keep them in your periphery, you keep your eye on them at all times, you know exactly where they're at, and you put distance between yourself and them as quickly as possible. Now, if a rabid dog does get your attention, or you get their attention, what's the best way to handle it? Fly off the handle and start yelling and screaming? Aggress towards them? Oh no. No. Because you know if you get bit by that dog, you're going to get rabies. You're possibly going to die. So the best way is to be calm, rational, speak clearly and slowly, not as if they're a retard, but you just don't want to tick them off. You don't want to push their buttons or do anything that might startle them or alarm them in any way, or to give them any excuse to attack you. Okay? And as soon as you can make your break, and you go for it. That's how I see you. All law enforcement. And that's never changed. Not just because Trump got elected, and there's a lot of support for you guys now because, well, not all cops, right? Well, I'm sorry. No, I'm done saying not all and then fill in the blank. No. All of you are murderers, cowards, and pussies. Every last one of you. And here's why I say that. It's because there's only one reason, one good, logical reason that I can think of that a person would get into law enforcement in the first place. Now, I understand that many of you actually do get into it because you think you want to do some good in the community. Maybe that's a genuine motivation for you, but you can't spend any time in law enforcement without realizing that you're not doing good for the community. You actually cause more harm to the community than good. Okay? You cause mistrust. You're the reason I'm making this video, and you're the reason I'm making this video with the content that it has. Okay? Now, Brailsford murdered Daniel Shaver. He purposefully and intentionally shot him to death. He knew he was going to do so before he did it. Whether it's in the couple of seconds that led up to that act, or whether it was on his mind when he got out of bed that morning, is irrelevant. He went in there with the intention to kill somebody. Now, the media first omitted the pictures of this jackass with all of his tats, right? All of his tats. Now, the haircut is, sure, you have to be clean cut. But, come on. Does that haircut not hearken to a pretty blatant white supremacist outset and outlook? Yes, it does. Does his tattoos and his manner of dress hearken to such an attitude? You know it does. And now, here's another thing. Etched on his weapon, on the dust cover, on the inside, of course, because you can't go flashing this stuff out in public, were the words, "You're fucked." Now, correct me if I'm mistaken, but is it not true that making an alteration to a service-issued weapon is against your department's policies, and that only the armorer is allowed to make modifications to the weapon? Yes, I think that is true, as a matter of fact. Etching those words on the inside of the dust cover takes tools. It's not just a drop it off and pick it up a few minutes later. It's not a sticker. It's an etch, right? That takes tools. That takes precision. That takes know-how. That takes money and time. And you let one of your officers alter his weapon, make modifications to his weapon against your department's policy. Now, here's another question. Maybe that was his personal weapon, in which case, yes, he absolutely has the right to have that etched on the inside of his dust cover. But is he allowed to use his personal weapon on the job while he's in uniform? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Not unless he has it registered with your police department and he is able to meet certain conditions is he allowed to bring his own rifle, as his own AR. Okay? Now, an ankle weapon, a hidden backup pistol, I don't know if the rules are the same for that or not. But it's pretty clear. You let a psychopathic murderer into your department who illegally modified his service-issued weapon, and you did nothing about it. In court, it was not allowed to be told to the jury or to be played for the jury the portion of the video evidence which shows Daniel Shaver begging for his life, which tells you that this officer absolutely intended to murder him. And Daniel Shaver knew it, which is why he was begging for his life. Alright, enough of that. You've had an earful. I'm sure you're pretty offended by now. I'm sure you might even be a little bit confused because the points I'm making, you understand they are valid. And yet you, personally, as an individual, maybe off duty, sitting there in your living room watching this video, are probably getting angry at this upstart anarchist calling you guys out as murderers, gangsters, liars, thieves, con artists, and criminals. Because that's what you are. And you don't like hearing it. Well, too fucking bad. That's what you are. And guess what? That's the reason this country has a Second Amendment. Daniel Shaver was in Phoenix, Arizona. Arizona has a Second Amendment law where, let me back up. In Arizona, you don't have to have a permit to carry concealed. You don't have to have a permit to carry openly. This guy was unarmed, and the officer that killed him, Brailsford, knew he was unarmed. That's another reason, that's what gave him the motivation to shoot this guy, because he knew he couldn't fight back. Now, if Daniel Shaver had been armed, imagine you're Daniel Shaver, and you come around the corner to see rifles pointed at you. What's your reaction? Are you immediately going to get down on your knees and throw your hands up? No. With your level of training, you're probably going to get cover again, get your weapon out, and get it into action. As you should, if somebody's pointing a weapon at you, right? You don't just stand there unless they have the absolute upper hand, in which case, you just have to weigh that situation. But why would you deny a citizen the right to defend themselves against you in that situation? You shouldn't. You're the reason there is a Second Amendment. It's so that citizens who are under threat and who are in fear of their lives, just like you guys always claim to be, have the right to shoot and kill you if you threaten their life, right? Or if you are in the act of attacking them. Okay? This guy wasn't trying to make an arrest. Obviously, he was not trying to make an arrest. No, I could have subdued the guy with nothing in my hands. You guys, all of you, you know you could have subdued him. He was already subdued. All you had to do is walk up, pat him down, put cuffs on him, and stand him up and walk away. But no, that wasn't the plan. The plan was to kill somebody that day. And that's why people like me in this country hate you. Yeah. That's why we're wary of you. That's why we don't trust you. That's why, if we feel that our lives are in danger, we're going to shoot back. So, if you're in law enforcement you should probably take a real serious look at why you're there, at what your motivation is. And don't tell me that you're not a criminal after I've described everything I've just described, because any reasonable person in their right mind is going to look at your actions, look at your departments, look at your policies, look at the violations of those policies, and come to the same conclusions I have. You guys are the real gangs. You guys are the real criminals. We, the people, need to protect ourselves from you.